for being here. It's nice to see everyone, and a lot of new people on the phone on the call, which is great. I'm Jackie Witterstein. I'm the administrative coordinator for the North Atlantic Coast CESU, and I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves, and then I'll have Elin take it away. So maybe Bryan, and then Elin can welcome everybody.
Sure. Hi. Yeah, my name is Brian Mitchell. I'm with the National Park Service. I'm the research coordinator for the North Atlantic Coast CSU and a science advisor for my Park Service region. So yeah, welcome everyone today, and I'll be talking to you a little bit later.
Hi everyone, my name is Elin Torell and I'm the director of the NAC CESU, and it's a real pleasure to have you all attend the meeting today. I don't know all of you, and I don't know if we should do introductions, but I'm wondering, do we have any federal partners, maybe the federal partners who are here, if any could introduce themselves first? Bryan, you might recognize.
Scrolling the list, I think I might be the only one.
Well, I'm
Oh,
Sherry Whitaker. I'm the
well, hi,
CESU
Sherry. Thanks. Sorry.
from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Civil Works side.
Great. Thanks for joining.
Hi, this is Rob Fila. I'm actually sitting in for Ebony. I'm with Bessie, Department of Interior, Bessie.
Thanks, Rob.
Mhm.
Great. I don't know if you want to do introductions, or maybe people could just type your name and your organization in the chat. Might be a good idea, just so we know what institutions you guys are all representing. So I think for today's meeting, we've allotted an hour and a half, and we'll see if we'll use the whole time or if we'll wrap up earlier. We'll see. But the way we organize the day is we'll have some updates from Bryan in the national office, so the National Parks office, and then we've asked some of our new partners to give a little briefing about themselves and what they do. And then we'll wrap up with some updates on our experts database, and I'll talk a little bit about our sort of our work plan and what it is that we do as Jackie and Bryan and myself. We formed this little CSU kind of leadership team. So I don't know, Bryan, I'm gonna hand it back to you for some updates.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess I'll be. I've been kind of keeping an eye out for our national lead. Doesn't I think we had a miscommunication about the timing of this meeting. So I will be giving sort of a short update on kind of the national level for the CSU program that normally would have been done by Tom Fish. And then I think and then we'll be doing the introductions from the new partners, and then I think I'll be back to kind of talk about a more North Atlantic Coast specific items. So for the national level, our national lead, our longtime national lead, Tom Fish, ended up retiring recently. And his duties have been taken over by Bret Meldrum and Bryan Faehner. They're both taking on national coordination of the CSU system as sort of collateral duties. They've both got other positions and have just kind of had this added to them. So they're still trying to get their feet wet with the CSU system and understand everything that's happening. And at the same time, we've had a number of departures from our CSU council. So there's a little bit of we're in a bit of a transition period at the national level with the CSU system, but we're starting to work through the membership on council, and Bret and Bryan Faehner are starting to get more of an understanding of what needs to be done. So hopefully we might have a bit of a rocky transition for the next few months, but I think things will smooth out long term. For part of what the national leadership does for the CSU program is ensure that the different CSU host universities, the 17 national host universities, actually get their support funding. And that host support does a lot of different things at the host university. It really funds the required responsibilities that Elin and Jackie have taken on. So things like, ensuring that announcements are distributed, processing new member applications, and helping to promote the CSU are all things that are funded through interagency funding every year. This year, there have been some hiccups in that and there's been a lot of uncertainty about whether or not the interagency funding is even going to arrive. So within the Park Service, we've decided to essentially just ensure that our host universities get the amount of funding that they're due for this coming year, and just kind of make that whole while we're transitioning, and new staff are kind of learning how to work the interagency funding aspect of the CSU. So for now, actually just this morning, the North Atlantic Coast CSU did receive its funding through the Park Service. So we're good for the next fiscal year to continue hosting the CSU. There were a couple of other things in the works. There was a proposal to substantially increase host university support that would have allowed a lot more outreach and coordination from our host universities to kind of support the broader network. And that's unlikely to move forward this fiscal year. In addition, I know indirect cost has been a long time issue, with the 17.5% seeming kind of low, but given the current environment we're in, I think that one is also unlikely to move forward this fiscal year or next fiscal year. I have just a couple. This is kind of a grab bag of updates. Sorry about that. I don't have very good segues here. We do have a national meeting every year, and this year that's scheduled for July 15th to 17th. It will be virtual now, and the agenda is still being developed. But since it is virtual, I suspect there will be an opportunity to join that if your partners. Normally, the host universities are the ones that go, but this year I suspect we'll be able to open up more broadly. So I'll make sure that information gets circulated once we have a little bit more information about that. Renewals is another thing that I wanted to just mention. That happens every 5 years. North Atlantic Coast was luckily last year, so we got that all through before we've had a lot of transitions this year. Renewals are still being approved by the CSU Council. I believe they've already met to do the approvals. The change this year and perhaps moving forward is that the host universities and the Park Service research coordinators are going to be a bit more involved in processing those renewals, as far as getting the documentation together, circulating to members and things like that. So, this is several years out, but next time this North Atlantic Coast CSU renews, you may see the host university rather than the national coordinator distributing documents for signature. Similarly, when we have new partners, we're now actually just handling that at the CSU level instead of the national level. So already the new partner process is essentially run by the North Atlantic Coast CSU. When people apply, Elin and I review the application, circulate that out to you all for review and then and voting. And once that's done, in the past, we would have passed it on to the national office to develop the amendment to the joint venture agreement and process that. But now we're just doing those in-house. The last thing I wanted to mention is that there is a national CSU website. I don't know if many people use it. It's based out of Penn State, and that is an important website for us because it does have the complete list of partners for the CSU and an archive of every CSU's documents. With Tom Fish's departure, we've lost access to that website, so it's not currently being updated, and we're currently working to get a hold of that website and transition it to a system that we can maintain moving forward. For now, if you do need information about the CSU system, I recommend just going to the North Atlantic Coast CSU website and getting your info there, or contacting me if you have specific questions and can't find current information. Again, that was kind of a grab bag of topics. If there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer those now.
Bryan, maybe you could just, again, we know in the federal funding landscape, there aren't a ton of opportunities coming out right now, but just wondering if you could say a few things about what kind of awards have been awarded to CSU partners since January.
Maybe we can table that for my second part because I've got a slide where I kind of talk about funding outlook.
That's totally fine.
Okay, yeah, and remind me of that question because I don't think I'll directly address it, but we can certainly do that.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, I realized that you have two presentations.
Right,
So
exactly.
this one was the more shallow, like, or not, maybe not shallow, but this was the
Broader
natural.
perspective, yeah.
And then we'll do the one focusing on our CSU specifically after the new partner presentations. So I guess, do we have any?
Any other questions for the national level?
All right, so maybe we can move right into our welcoming our new partners. We've tried to do this every year and have a couple new partners present. So I'm just going to go alphabetically down the list. And so we're going to start with Darcy from Bridgewater State University.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay.
And you should be able to share your screen.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, so we're happy to be part of the North Atlantic Coast CESU. We put together our application. I think it went through this fall, or maybe it was the spring. I can't remember. But wanted to give you a little bit of overview about us. So we are a public university, one of the state universities in Massachusetts. We have a longstanding mission. We come from a teacher's college background, but a lot of mission in public service and also community engagement. We have about 10,000 students at the university, and that includes different colleges, including graduate studies. We're building more programs in that area. The mission of the university is really rooted in trying to make education accessible to people in the region. We engage a lot with our communities in the region. We also address societal challenges through what we do in our teaching, in our research and service. We serve about 30% of our students are, I guess you'd say, people of color. We also have try to make a welcoming environment for people who have kind of different types of learning abilities, achievement gaps, and also underrepresented students. As far as current partnership with the CESU partners, whether it be the partners or the federal partners or non-federal partners, we have collaborations with them, both formally and informally, through our different colleges and the different departments you see here are probably of those that are most active. The first 5 being from our college, the Bartlett College of Science and Mathematics. I'm sorry, the first 6 there. And then the other ones come from 3 different colleges at the university as well. So our interactions really, kind of span the gamut. I know that we don't, the 3 of us that are here today from Bridgewater, we probably don't know everybody who's interacting with a federal partner. We hope to learn more about what's going on even at our university as we go forward. But there's a lot of interaction in our college. For example, some of the more informal interactions have been through our GIS day events, geospatial day events, where we brought in Army Corps of Engineers from the New England district office, the Concord, Massachusetts office, and also colleagues that we have at the USGS at Woods Hole. In a more formal setting, we've our photonics physics department for photonics program has been in collaboration with the Department of Defense and also MIT in developing the program. So our photonics program is relatively new, and we've been working closely with MIT on that and through a grant from the DoD, which is one of the CESU partners, federal partners. We also last year had a co-hosted the Northeast Cooperative Soil Survey, it's an NRCS, I guess conference, with week-long conference, and we had a theme of dynamic soils and climate resiliency, looking to the past to guide the future. And we made a lot of contacts during that time with NRCS scientists and also some of their collaborators in some of the institutions, educational included institutions in this region. And I should also mention that we do have a very active administration in making connections with, for example, CES federal partners like this one here. The Career Services Administration office in our college or university is probably one of the most important ones in helping students to make those connections with internships and opportunities post-graduation. I wanted to mention the application partners. So the three of us work together. I'm Darcy. I'm the chair and also a professor of geography. And so my background is geospatial science, physical geography, and remote sensing. We also have Christine Brandon here from the Geological Sciences Department, and Dr. Thelina Sarasinghe also is here from Biological Sciences. And a mention of what we have been working on, the three of us. So we put the application together. We think that we're going to hopefully be one of the first of the group to, or of our university to hopefully identify a grant to work on with a federal partner. But some of the present work we are looking at is trying to develop some synthesis work, developing an article on these different topics here. There's a lot of work with Dr. Thelina Sarasinghe with wetland restoration, and along with Dr. Christine Brandon's background in sedimentology, the three of us are working together to identify use of state and transition models to understand better disturbances and how ecosystems recover, specifically wetland ecosystems and altered hydrology. And so in our region, we have a lot of cranberry bogs, like this one you see here. This is a picture of tin marsh, a wetland that is in Plymouth, Massachusetts. It was a former cranberry farm and has been restored. And so there's different ways these cranberry bogs are being restored in the Northeast, as some of you might know. Some of it's tightly managed. Other approaches are to just kind of let a natural transition. And so we're interested in looking at how we can start to make some measurements of how these different this disturbance eventually leads to some recovery. So that's where we are at Bridgewater, and we're happy to be here and looking forward to hopefully working with some of you.
Thank you so much. Dickinson.
Hello, greetings from Pucón, Chile. My name is Ben Edwards. I'm on sabbatical right now, and for 3 more days anyway, I'm 40 degrees south instead of 40 degrees north. But happy to be here with you guys today. Looking forward to a little bit of spring because it's definitely fall here. I got my Icelandic sweater on in my office because it's a bit chilly. Ben Swieger is also here from Dickinson. He's our director of all things research grant type stuff, I think. Ben, is that fair?
That's fair, sure. My technical title is Director of Sponsored Projects, but I am serving as the Administrative and Grants and Agreements representative for the CESU. And Ben is serving as our technical representative.
Yeah, so I'm glad to be with you all today. We're new. We joined, I think, roughly in the winter, something like that, is when we got our applications in and approved. So I will share briefly a few things about Dickinson, and I will try to keep it brief since it's going to be a long meeting for everyone. So Dickinson College is a small private liberal arts college in central Pennsylvania. We're about 20 minutes west of the Susquehanna River and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is the capital. So we're in a great spot from many perspectives. I'm a professor of geosciences. I mainly study volcanoes. That's why I'm down in Chile. But I also teach rocks and minerals courses. I teach some soils courses. I'm a certified drone pilot. I do GIS. So I think it's kind of typical, maybe for many of us, but certainly people at small liberal arts colleges, we're a department of 5 people covering a whole discipline of science. And so everyone at Dickinson, I think, wears lots of hats with teaching and with research. I think we're still kind of new in the process, so Ben can jump in if I forget anything. But I think We have about 2,200 students, no graduate program, so we're just an undergraduate liberal arts college. Um, there's at least probably 4 academic departments that are eventually, if not now, going to have some interest in participating in this program. We have a Department of Anthropology and Archaeology, Biology, Environmental Studies and Science, and Geosciences. And then we also have some other extra bits where there may be people that are interested as well in being involved in some projects. We have CESU, which is a Center for Sustainability Education. We have a program that works with a lot of student interns in communities called ALARM, which is the Alliance for Aquatic Resource Management. They have a new director, so who haven't met yet, but so things might be changing a bit there. But they do a lot of work with communities, especially in Pennsylvania. We also have a sort of a longer standing, but still building program in Arctic and Alpine climate change research, which I run with one of the other faculty members, and we have an organic farm. So Dickinson does a lot of things in sustainability, and we have a lot of faculty involved in a number of projects that are sort of broadly related to that. Ben, anything else from the general perspective?
Yeah, I would say that our history department is also active and might be a
Oh, right.
good partner, as well as our archives and special collections, which may be a little bit not in the normal realm of things, but we one of our members of our archives and special collections is involved with the Carlisle Indian School Digital Resource Center, and I could see where there may be some partnerships that could be beneficial to everybody as well.
Yeah, and actually, I should have mentioned, I left off here. We also have a relatively new Center for the Future in Native Peoples program at Dickinson, and that's a program that it's sort of connected around the archives project a little bit that Ben just mentioned, and the Carlisle former Carlisle boarding school, but that program is also building, and we're building towards possibly some sort of a more academic focused program in studies of indigenous peoples. Okay, so then really quickly, 2 archaeologists, anthropology, archaeology people, but people that do field work and might be interested in participating in geoarchaeological things in the Northeast, Matt Bewer and Andrew Dufton. And they have a variety of types of work that they do. They both work internationally as well. We have 3 ecologists in our biology department: Carol Leffler, plant ecologist Tom Arnold, marine ecologist, and Scott Bobeck, who's a terrestrial ecologist. And they all do a lot of field work related to many things, climate change, but also things focused on sort of the eastern part of North America. We have an environmental studies and science program. I didn't list the environmental studies faculty, but we have 2 ecologists. Actually, that's not scope. This should be not Scott's not there. Scott's in biology. But we have 2 ecologists, and then they also have some people that study air pollution and also green infrastructure. And then in my department, the geosciences department, we have a lot of potential interest. We have a fair bit of experience with NSF grants. We have a geophysicist who has lots of geophysical things that she likes to do, GPR. We're building a drone fleet, and we've just got some of our first larger equipment for hauling in drones. We have so both Professor Hayes and I are licensed drone pilots. We have a building GIS program. We have a geochemistry lab where Professor Alison Thibodeau, who does some environmental mercury. And then we also have a number of people that have worked in sort of North American geoarchaeology, more sort of colonial history type area. So I think we have lots of potential overlap with federal agencies in the Northeast, as well as maybe some other places as well. And I think that's all I need to say. Ben, anything else?
I think that's probably a pretty good overview. Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Welcome. Montclair State University.
Hi there. I'm Megan Wu from Montclair State University. With me here, also my colleague Ted. And Ted, if you want to quickly introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks, Megan. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Ted Russo. I am the director of the Office of Sponsor Programs at Montclair State.
Thank you, Ted. So we're kind of coming from two different branches. Well, I'm the professor from the science part, and Ted does all the administration part of the research event. So Montclair State University is a public doctoral research university located at Montclair, New Jersey. New Jersey is pretty narrow and long, and we are at the northern part, about 12 miles from New York City. The school has 12 colleges and schools and offer about 300 degree programs. We have about 24,000 students, and we're also a Hispanic serving institution. We are a Carnegie R2 institution, and we do both basic, apply, and community engaged research, and which is one of the focus of the university as well. As we are located in the urban environment, so we do a lot of environmental or community engaged research with local community. And we are also surrounded by a lot of brownfield, as well as a previous industrial city. So that is one of the focus of the university as well. Majority of our research and at different level are sort of led and organized by center and institutes across the university. And I list them here. They are also listed on the website. Due to the time limitation, I will not go through every single one of it, but the links are available on the website. So if anyone is interested in learning more about what the center and institute actually do, please go visit them. I'm just going to highlight some of the research area that are most closely related to the mission of our program. So one thing that we have been focusing on is what we call microbial source tracking, which is actually trying to find out the origin of pollution, non-point source pollution specifically, using fecal signature. So we trace fecal pollution and try to identify the sources of those fecal pollution coming from, and using the eDNA approach. And by doing so, we'll be able to actually pinpoint the source of pollution. And again, it's really focusing on the management of non-point source pollution. The other focus is in the area of harmful algal bloom, as we know that they are one of the issue around the nation. So it's across both terrestrial ecosystem as well as aquatic ecosystem, both in the water quality as well as the biota. So we're looking into both detection as well as some of the management of both cyanobacteria and cyanotoxins. We also have been working closely with our federal and state partner as well as the not-for-profit organization on the initiative of habitat connectivity around the region. And it's not just the state, but across the whole entire Northeast region. And the goal is really try to look into the urban landscape and how some of the structure are disconnecting or fragment the habitats. Particularly the roads and how the road and building restrict the tidal impacts and cause all localized flooding. So that's another area, and we try to work with the state government to improve the connectivity. The other focus is brownfield remediation, as we are located in the northern part of New Jersey, which has a lot of brownfield, one of the highest density of brownfield in the nation. So one of the focus is really to better understand the level of contamination in the brownfield site and try to develop new technology that will be able to help restoring the soil and reduce the pollution. We also have quite a number of faculty that focus on climate change, and we study how the climate change are impacting biotic community, as well as the geomorphology, both marine, coastal, and also on land. We look into weather events, hurricane or wildfire, for example. And we also look into how they are affecting human health, how they are affecting the economic, particularly, again, focusing on the urban area. We also have a lot of people focus on biodiversity, looking into from more of a community dynamic point of view, utilizing eDNA approach. A lot of us also study invasive and protected species from both ends. And again, that's all kind of like connected with some of the point that we previously talked about, urban impact, climate impact, and so on. And again, I'm from Montclair State University, and I'll be happy to make connection with all of you. And but if you have any specific question about some of the research area, or there are a lot other research that being conducted by my colleagues that are not included here, I'll be more than happy to share it with you. So feel free to reach out. And Ted, if there's anything that you would like to include or add on, please feel free to do so.
No, I think that pretty well covers it, Mayan. Thank you. And the same. Please reach out. Feel free to reach out to me if there's anything you'd like to talk about and discuss.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you so much. Let's see, Woodwell Climate Research Center.
Hey, thanks, Jacqueline. Let me get my presentation. Okay, well, thanks everyone. It's great to meet everyone virtually. And yes, we are a new member as of, I don't know, 3 or 4, 5 months ago. So yeah, so Woodwell Climate Research Center, we're located just outside of the Woods Hole Village. We're fully independent, 100% soft money, science-driven nonprofit, founded by George Woodwell, who was actually the director of the Ecosystem Center at the Marine Biological Lab at the time, who decided that he wanted to focus much more on climate change instead of just doing basic ecological research. And we've kind of taken his mission of doing science and bringing it to people that could have impact forward, and that really drives the center. So yeah, so we're physically located just outside of the Woods Hole Village, part of the 6 science institutions in Woods Hole, but we have about 50% of our staff work remotely at this point. And so yeah, so this kind of drives our work, and it's been kind of our driving force, doing science to enable just effective policies and decisions to really address the climate crisis. And this is just our mission statement. We conduct science for solutions at the nexus of climate, people, and nature. We partner with leaders and communities for just meaningful impacts to address the climate crisis. And so really what that means in practice is we do really important science, filling knowledge gaps around climate mitigation, climate adaptation, but we also bring that science to policymakers, to corporate partners, to conservation partners to really kind of have an impact on the ground. So we organize our science around 5 themes. Carbon, I'm the director of the carbon program. We have a strong Arctic program. We have a strong climate risk program. We were founded around preservation of primary tropical forests. Our tropics program has been around since the beginning, and we have a lot of research around water, whether it's wetlands, water quality, just water cycling in general. So we have about 140 staff total, about 90 on the science side. We have 18 principal scientists and about 10 research scientists, which we could think of as kind of our early career, non-tenured scientists. And they're kind of distributed across these 5 themes with a lot of overlap. I actually work across all 5 of these themes. And like I said, I mean, we do a lot of great science, but we really try to have impact with that science. I'm not going to go through this whole list, but George Woodwell was the first scientist to testify in front of Congress around the dangers that climate change really poses to the United States. We helped launch the UNFCCC and IPCC process. We've participated in every single assessment report as either lead or contributing chapter authors. We have a strong presence at every COP. We recently, our climate risk group really helped shape the guidelines for corporate disclosure of physical climate risk at the SEC. We helped found a sister nonprofit in Brazil that's been fundamental in shaping forest policy in Brazil for the last 20 years. We regularly testify in front of Congress where we work across the aisle. We work with a nonpartisan group. We work with a red state-leaning group that really believes climate change is an existential issue and trying to get that knowledge in front of not just Democratic lawmakers, but Republican lawmakers in Congress. So this is some examples of the work we do. So we have a really good government relations group that helps the scientists kind of translate the science into action, really at international, federal, and also at the Massachusetts state level. And just a few examples. This is kind of a laundry list I was putting together of kind of North Atlantic coast related research that we're currently working on. So projects around how do we change forest harvest schedules that could maximize both economic and climate benefits in Maine. We just delivered a report to the Martha's Vineyard Commission around carbon storage and potential kind of trajectories of carbon storage across the island. We recently delivered a report to the Commonwealth titled No Net Loss of Wetlands, just really looking at what are the wetland resources in Massachusetts, what state are they in, how can we better protect them and restore them for climate benefits. We've led well over a decade of research into salt marsh responses to nitrogen loading, and also now looking at kind of the recovery of these ecosystems once like sewer systems are put in, so less nitrogen loading drops precipitously. My own work, I'm a trained soil scientist and I do a lot of work with National Cooperative Soil Survey. We have a current cooperating agreement mapping dynamic soil properties in space and time across the continental United States. I have a new project funded by some local conservation groups looking at kind of ecological capital of the South Taconic Plateau, which kind of is on the corner of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New York. We've done a lot of work in cranberry bog and restoration. Up until January 20th, we had been doing a lot of work with the Department of Defense, looking at their exposure to climate risk with a lot of their infrastructure. That was a really successful program that unfortunately was canceled with different priorities. And we also do, like I said, I've been working with National Cooperative Soil Survey for years. And one of the things I've been helping them with is using indirect infrared spectroscopy in their state labs to really speed up the acquisition of soil data. So yeah, so really that's us, and I could kind of leave it there. You could, if you haven't heard of us before, check out our website, woodwellclimate.org. We're kind of a neat little feature in the Woods Hole community, and of really focusing on climate change and trying to do something about it. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. So I also just want to mention that we do have two other partners on the list that we didn't ask to present today. One because they're actually both because they're fairly new, but I just wanted to mention. So Rob introduced himself from the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement earlier. So that's Bessie, that's one of our federal partners. And we also have the Gulf of Maine Research Institute on with us today too. So thank you both for being here. And we look forward to hearing more from you soon. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it back to Bryan for regional updates. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, Jerome Pinty from the Gulf of Maine Institute, Research Institute. Actually, Bryan asked me to present, so I can talk about GMRI if you want, or if there's time. If there is not, that's also totally fine.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're ready, go ahead.
That'd be great. Sorry, I don't think I saw a response. So yeah.
Yeah, sorry, maybe that wasn't clear. All right. You guys should be able to, yeah, of course, no worries. You should be able to see my screen now. Yeah, so this
Great.
is the Gulf of Maine Research Institute. As Jacqueline just mentioned, we are one of the newest partners. I think we got approved within the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's fairly recent, and we're very excited to be part of the CSU network and especially this chapter. So we are we are an independent nonprofit marine institute. So we support the Gulf of Maine ecosystem and the communities that depend on it. This is a picture of our building in a day just as sunny as today, which is kind of rare in this season. So we're happy to enjoy that. We are located in Portland, Maine, and we are just above 100 people now. So we are fairly small but mighty. And all these people are dedicated towards fulfilling our missions, which is to develop and deliver collaborative solutions to global ocean challenges. And really, we try to have an impact in the Gulf of Maine area and also globally. So our impacts are, we envision a future in which the ecosystem, economy, and communities of the Gulf of Maine region thrive amid remits change. So really have these three pillars for our works where we care about the ecosystem, especially the marine ecosystem, but also the communities and the economy that we can have in the Gulf of Maine. And all of this, everything that we do is embedded in science, and GMRA has two main departments. One is research, where we do all our science, and the other one is impact, where we apply that research for the benefits of the Gulf of Maine. And impact has like three different divisions, which are education, communities, and economic development to fit this kind of diagram that you see here. I can talk briefly about our strategic plan that we just started. It's going to start in June 1st for our new fiscal year. And we've established cross-organizational initiatives, 4 initiatives that we think are going to be key to fulfill our mission in the Gulf of Maine in the next 4 years. So those 4 initiatives are these ones. So the first one is adapting fisheries and seafood. The second one is building climate-ready communities, and then we have developing the blue economies and supporting working waterfronts, and then finally supporting energy solutions. And all of those are going to have 2 main objectives. I'm going to tell you the main objectives, but not all the smaller objectives. Otherwise, we're going to be here for a while. And they're both divided into science on one side and then impact on the other side. So for the first initiative, which is adapting fisheries and seafood, we're really dedicated to producing novel science and tools so that we can have sustainable fisheries and sustainable seafood, whether it be fishing in the Gulf of Maine, designing new trawls, or how to have better aquaculture, reducing ecosystem impacts. And then finally, we're going to use that science to support adaptation and growth of the sector in the area. Then for climate-ready communities, we want to lead community-engaged research. We're starting to have a lot of issues with sea level rise and the impact of king tides. There was one yesterday around midnight. So Gulf of the area kind of looked like that around here. We're trying to find ways to monitor that and to design solutions so that we can actually better manage those. Thirdly, we want to develop the blue economy and support the working waterfronts. So this is a lot of efforts designed for working waterfronts, fishermen in general, but also developing the blue economy workforce in general, whether that be with students, middle school students, high school students, undergrads, graduate students, really all across the board. And we have a lot of efforts dedicated to that. And finally, the Energy Solutions Initiative, we're first to try to understand the energy impact. When it was first designed at the beginning of last year, we thought there would be a very large focus on offshore wind. Now we kind of broaden that scope a little bit for obvious political reasons. And we are also interested in how to electrify the grids and looking at other ways to have a greener or more energy emission friendly sector, for example, using fishing boats that will emit less GHG or something like that. And our expertise, so this is just a brief list of all the PIs and the different labs that we have, and feel free to reach out if you want to talk to any of them or if you're interested in any of those topics. We'll be very happy to collaborate with all of you. So the first one is in research. So myself, I lead the biological oceanography lab here. Then we have Graham Sherwood that's been here for more than 20 years, leading the Fisheries Ecology Lab. A lot of work related to designing new fishing gears, eDNA, also acoustics work. Kathy Mill, integrated systems ecology, really trying to link what's happening in the environment, in the ecology, with what can happen with the communities. Also trying to predict in the future what the distribution of several species is going to look like and what that means for the fishermen. Then we have Hannah Beranes that leads the Coastal and Marine Economics Lab. Oh, no, sorry, that's wrong. So the Coastal and Marine Economics Lab is led by Kanai Tokunaga. There must have been some kind of deletion here. So this is our economist in-house, and Hannah Beranes actually leads the Coastal Dynamics Lab, which is the lab that investigates sea level rise. They put an array of sensors on a lot of working waterfronts to monitor sea level, and they work very closely with a very large number of municipalities around Maine and New England to help with sea level rise, storm surge, and all these kinds of issues that we might have. Then we have the Ocean Data Products team. Riley Young-Morse is the head of this team. They work very closely with the NERACUS, which is the Northeast Regional Association of Ocean Observing Systems. They do all their data treatment, actually. So we have a very, very good capacity in dealing with large data files, especially related to oceanographic products. Then Amanda Dickes is in the Learning Sciences Lab, and she's halfway in the research team and in the education team, where she studies the science of learning and how can students learn better in Maine, and especially related to problematics such as sea level rise, environmental impacts, Gulf of Maine warning, etc. Then I put little parentheses around this name because we're going to have soon a physical oceanographer joining us, Jeremy Shen. She's going to start here in September 1st, and we're very excited to have her. And we have plans to expand our capacity over the next few years, for example, hiring a marine policy specialist and a few other PIs. And in the impact division, as I told you, we're separated into three different divisions. We have education, where I think their flagship program is called Lab Ventures. It's a program very impressive, actually, where they walk students through a little program for 2.5 hours, where they tell them about the Gulf of Maine ecosystem, the impact of warming, etc. So to broaden their science outreach. And every year, 70 to 80% of the Maine high schoolers go through this program. So it's a very large proportion of the Maine students. And we have a lot of students go through that building every day because of that. Then we have community with Jonathan Libery and economic development with Rhiannon Hampson that just joined us. And I think I will stop there, and thank you all for your attention, and feel free to reach out if you have any question about that.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for presenting. We appreciate learning more about you and sharing this information with your partners. So, and welcome. So I think now we're ready to pass it back to Bryan for regional updates. Thanks.
Sure, thanks. It's my screen sharing.
Not yet.
Oh, I probably have to click the share button. How's it now?
Great, good to go.
Excellent. So thanks, Jackie. So yeah, I wanted to, for this part, I will be talking a bit about kind of what the past funding trends have been, what little I know about the funding outlook, and I'll also be providing some, just wanted to give you a little bit of information about our experts database as well. So I only really have complete funding information for the National Park Service, but the pattern for other agencies should be fairly similar. The last 2.5 years saw a substantial increase in funding for our CSU partners. First, we had the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And that was followed by the Inflation Reduction Act. And those two laws kicked in with substantial funding for supporting resource and ecosystem resilience and restoration. So partners in our CSU are supporting major initiatives related to salt marsh and seagrass restoration, plus facilitating engagement with tribal partners. And that's on top of the more typical projects that support natural and cultural resource management, ranging from historical resource studies to things like taxonomic inventories. Then this past January, some of you may have noticed that there was a bit of a transition in Washington, D.C. It's still too soon to say exactly how the new administration is going to be affecting our CSU partners. And I don't know much of what's happening beyond my own agency and department, and even in my own agency, I'm not necessarily in the loop. But from what I've heard, things are broadly similar across agencies. So for now, it does look like unspent Inflation Reduction Act and bipartisan infrastructure law funding is being held with a possible intent to allow Congress to rescind it in the pending reconciliation bill. Proposed projects are all being reviewed to ensure that they support, or at least that they don't contradict, administration priorities. So in Interior, all projects above $50,000 have to be reviewed by a higher level political appointee. But any project that's being proposed has to be reviewed at least by the agency for compliance with administration priorities. That slowed down the process of awarding projects, and in some cases has resulted in proposed projects being denied. Excuse me. Within my agency, there's a service-wide combined call that identifies projects that are going to be funded across natural resources, cultural resources, planning, facilities, and more. That program has been paused for now. The current call was for fiscal year 2027 projects, and projects that were identified in previous calls do seem to be moving forward. So there's time at least still to restart this process before it begins to impact project awards. However, the delays in the budget are affecting some projects. So the continuing resolution that funds the government was passed on March 15th. But the National Park Service has not received the funding levels for the parks and for the programs. So that's created some budget uncertainty that, along with a hiring freeze, an increase in resignations and retirements, and in my agency, a mandate to focus on visitor services, means that a lot of parks and programs are limiting their expenses on resource-related projects. So I expect that we'll see fewer of these projects for the rest of this year and into next year. In addition, it's worth mentioning the consolidation of administrative functions at the Department of Interior. I've not been told how this will affect financial assistance, and at least the financial assistance staff I've spoken with have said that they haven't heard much yet either. This is all still really new. They just transitioned over to the department about a pay period ago, so about 2 weeks ago. As the department kind of continues this consolidation effort with financial assistance and other administrative functions, there's actually the potential for some benefits to recipients and partners to the CSU system if it results in some more consistent and more established processes across agencies. Right now, every agency does things with financial assistance a bit differently, and if that ends up being consistent across all of the interior agencies, and that I think will be a benefit. However, it's not certain yet if, when or if those processes are going to be updated, and then when or if that's going to actually affect the CSU system. That all remains to be seen. I have noticed a decrease in the number of requests for proposals and for letters of interest from previous years, and I've also noticed a decrease in the number of funding opportunities posted on grants.gov. Some agencies almost exclusively post on grants.gov. That's like generally DOD, USGS, and Fish and Wildlife Service post that way. I have seen very few projects coming through. We have had some announcements coming through DOD that we have been putting up and distributing. But it seems maybe about similar for DOD, but definitely less for the Department of Interior agencies. So, bottom line here is that there are definitely still projects moving forward, but I think we're in a leaner environment, at least in the next fiscal year. And overall, just kind of fewer projects coming through the CSU system for a while. I do have one more slide on the experts database, and then we can come back to questions, including what Elin had asked. But I did just want to mention that since we are heading into a more competitive funding situation, I just want to remind everyone about our CSU's experts database. If you're able to encourage your faculty and staff to submit profiles to the database, that means that when federal agencies are researching potential partners for projects, they're able to quickly find some experts at your institution or organization who will be suitable. Not all projects are competed broadly, so participating in the database means that your expertise is going to be available when agencies have limited time and are trying to just directly identify people they want to work with. In addition, experts are now included on messages about funding opportunities, so we'll get a little bit more time and notice about potential projects unless they choose to opt out of those notifications. So submitting a profile to the database really only takes a few minutes and just requires a PDF of your CV, and then the profile just needs to be briefly reviewed annually to ensure it stays current. We have 4 CSUs that are in the database now with 135 total profiles, and more than half of those are from our CSU, but we definitely love to have more. So please do encourage your faculty and staff to submit a profile and let me or Jackie know if you'd like to have assistance recruiting people. We do have a flyer and draft text that we can share with you, and we're always open for ideas that'll help us make this database more useful and easier to use. So that's really the information I had prepped, and I think we can just kind of go to, I think I'll turn off my slideshow and we can kind of stop sharing and we can go to Q&A. I can figure out how to stop sharing here.
I just want to mention I put the link to the experts database in the chat, as well as the link to the PDF info flyer that you can share within your agency.
All right. I think it's still sharing. Let's see if we can get the full window here and stop sharing.
I shut it off for you, Brian.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So Elin had asked about just some of the sorts of projects that are being approved. And I pulled up my list of what's gone through the Department of Interior review and been approved. So there are 4 that are on this list. And this is a subset of all the projects. Smaller projects would have just been reviewed by the agency. And I know we have several of those, but these actually got kind of the political level review. So there's one project with Center for Coastal Studies on predicting coastal erosion hotspots. And the rest of the title is for natural resource protection and secure visitor access. There's a College of the Atlantic project that's responding to the threat of avian influenza by monitoring seabird islands and communicating about those results. There is a inventory of reptiles and amphibians at some parks in Massachusetts and actually New Jersey as well. And then there's a regular project that we have for GIS support that's with the University of Rhode Island. And the reptile and amphibian project was with UMass Boston. So, broadly, I think within our agency, people are looking at making sure they highlight any impact a project would have to help with visitor services, health, safety, and any other mandatory needs. So things like endangered species and the like. But more broadly, as long as people are making a good statement that a project is important for the mission of the Park Service, which is preserving and protecting resources for this and future generation, within my agency, those projects seem to be moving forward. Avoiding certain trigger words and areas that we know the administration is not supportive of will help. If you can reframe projects to highlight, just how they are helping resources and focusing on the mission. That's kind of how our staff have been working to get projects, through the approval process and awarded. Do we have any other questions? And looks like there's some chats. Let me see if I can scroll down to those. Okay, that's just what Jackie posted. All right, well, thanks.
Thanks, Brian. So I guess we're going to wrap up with me giving a little overview of what we do at the CESU sort of headquarters here at the University of Rhode Island. So I'm going to share my screen. And do you see my screen okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So as part of our work of being the NAC CESU coordinators, part of what we have to do is, oh,
Although, Elin, I think you're in presenter mode for us.
yeah. Do you see the whole like slideshow? I mean,
I think if you use slideshow, it at the top.
I think it's because I have two screens, so I have to disconnect one screen.
Oh, there's the button at the top that says swap screens, but you got it.
Does it work now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So anyway, so part of what we have to do is develop a strategic plan, and I'm not going to present this, but all of the partners were provided an opportunity to look at this and give us some feedback, and thank you to everyone who did. This strategic plan, I believe, is on our website, so you can look at it there, but in brief, we have 3 strategic areas. So the first is to facilitate sort of excellence in research and technical assistance. So what we do a lot is like we do weekly scans of grants.gov because some of our federal partners don't send us opportunities directly. So we kind of have to keep an eye out to see if anything comes out and send it along. But other agencies send us opportunities directly by email. And when those come in, we send those to you guys. So it's kind of varied. We do everything from kind of just keeping an eye out to having active communications with federal partners. We coordinate, with Bryan on a daily basis. Even though we're all on Zoom, in different screens, we're sitting very close to each other here in our building. So, and then Bryan just presented on the experts database, but we try to foster this effective information exchange, outreach, and communication. So we want to make sure that the CESU is known among our federal partners. So we want to highlight the CSU projects whenever we can. So you guys as the PIs and partners, if you have things you want us to showcase, please reach out to Jackie and she'll make sure to get things out on our website or on our social media. We had planned on doing these quarterly CESU coffee hours, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. I think we got a little sidetracked with everything that's been going on in this calendar year. We have to kind of facilitate an active involvement of our partners. So having this annual meeting is one of the things that we do every year. We do participate in our monthly CSU directors meetings where we meet with all the other CSUs to see what's going on. We do have the annual meeting, like Bryan mentioned, that the last few years they've been in person, but I guess now we're going back to the virtual again. We meet as a little team, and then we do connect with you guys. We do a lot of outreach with new partners that are interested in joining the CSU, and it's been cool to see actually since I started working on the CSU 3 years ago. I think this year we had more new members join than we've ever had before, so it's really nice to see that interest. So right now, this is our list of partners. We have 43 non-federal partners and 10 federal partners. And just listening to the presentations that you guys did this morning, I feel like sometimes we think about the CESU as an opportunity for us non-federal partners to connect with the 10 federal partners and get funding, but really, I think this is a wonderful network, and I was just thinking, wow, I'd like to use the experts database from a URI perspective. Like if I want to submit a proposal for something, I might want to look into the experts database and see what other non-federal partners are doing, and if there are groups we can partner with, because there is really a wealth of expertise and experience across our partners. So then the last piece is just to make the CESU operationally effective. And, we do have our annual work plan, we do web updates and so forth. But I might have mentioned this before. I think our annual budget for the CESU ranges from like $12,000 to $25,000. So we're kind of doing this on a shoestring. We try to hire a student every year to kind of help us with social media and stuff. But we do feel really passionate about having the CESU, and I really hope that it's gonna survive this rocky period, and it will come, that will, even if the funding slows down, that it will survive and kind of come back in full swing again in a while. So I think that was my little update from the central office. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for us on the CESU, or if you have any kind of comments in general, anything to contribute.
Before we do that, Elin, can I just mention a couple housekeeping things just to let everybody know? I'm sorry, but I neglected to put this on the agenda. I just wanted to let everybody know that to please check out our website. I think there's probably a couple of documents and website things we can send to you all, especially for our new partners that haven't had exposure to them before, about how we track projects and things like that in the database on our website. But please check it out. We are working on getting our new partners up there and also onto into our experts tables, so you can actually see your names and your information there. Please check out that if you have any questions. If you're a veteran partner and you have updates to the website, we try to keep track of those and update them as we get them through. But if you've noticed something that we've missed, please let us know. And then the other thing I would mention is that in the last year, we've been creating some content, some stories and social media content from really cool projects that have been featured by our CESU partners. If you have something that that's happening at your university and it's been funded on CESU funding or through the CESU mechanism, please send it to us. We'd love to be able to feature your work and share within our networks. And we have utilized those students in the past for that, creating some really nice feature stories and some really nice social media content to share. We'd love to help as part of your outreach to get your projects off the ground. So I just wanted to mention those two things quickly before we open up to questions. Thanks, Elin.
Thanks, Jackie.
Good. I think, were we planning on having a student next fall?
That is the plan. Yeah.
So just give some folks some idea of the timeline. We're going to be definitely looking for projects to highlight by the fall.
And the other thing I'll mention too is that we did record this meeting. So if you have colleagues that couldn't attend and would like to see what we talked about, we'll post it on the website and we'll let everybody know when it's been posted. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Elin, I didn't know if you could just say a little bit more about what you were talking about finding internal partnerships among the non-federal groups here. If you were thinking about more of that as a sort of PI by PI, looking for a potential collaborator, or if you were talking about sort of more formally, if there was something more formal in your mind about structuring that across the CESU organizations.
Well, I was thinking about it more informally, like if CESU opportunities come up, to kind of look at the database to see if you want to partner with somebody or if there are other opportunities. But part of what we had been thinking about with the coffee hours with the federal partners were to do kind of quarterly or maybe twice a week discussions on specific topics. We we had been, say, I mean, everything's changed, but say with offshore wind, for example, with Bessie joining the CSU, could we have a coffee hour focused on the offshore wind to discuss, what our different partners are doing on that topic, and hear more from the federal partners of where their interests are, and maybe using that as a process to actually shape some new initiatives. Now, I think that we lost steam on that topic, but it's certainly something that we could pick up, on maybe on a different topic, or so yeah. So I kind of had, I guess, both ideas.
Great, thanks.
And, I'll mention that there's a potential to use the CSU, as, not just, funding coming from federal agencies and non-federal partners, but there is a potential for partner-to-partner projects happening. I believe the Wildlife Management Institute, who's one of our CSU partners, has used the CSU to fund one of our other partners. And one of the things I've been looking into is the potential for encouraging foundations to join the CSU system, and then to join our network. And then if we have a foundation that's a member, then they can use the CSU mechanism to fund projects directly to partners. So as a way to kind of expand beyond the initial sort of federal agency funding approach, we can broaden out.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Well, the other thing I would say too, to add on to what Elin and Bryan said, is that we're always looking to, what we do at the Coastal Institute at URI is actually foster interdisciplinary relationships. Like, that's part of our role here. And so we're always open to ideas. So Chris, if you have something specific you want to reach out to us about, that would be great. But we're here to help convene you all as a network, not just with the federal partners, but with each other. So, and hopefully we'll have the traction to be able to do that going forward. So if we don't have any other questions, I think we can end a few minutes early. Well, thanks everybody for being here. We're welcome to our new partners, and we're excited to keep you posted about things going forward. You'll be hearing from us soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a good day. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Oh, Jerome?